Hello, my name is Ken Larkin, Ballyfermot Heritage Group. I'm on the road here, Ballyfermot Drive, a road that we moved into with my sister and my mother in 1958, and a road that brings back great memories to me of great friends and great neighbours. Ballyfermot itself was always a very close community with great neighbours all around, great community spirit, and this is what brings back the memories now.
Hi.
Oh yeah. From this road, Ballyfermot Drive, we're going to take a step back in time to Ballyfermot in the beginning.
In the 1930s, due to the overcrowding and squalor of Dublin City's tenement buildings, the corporation decided to build a new housing scheme on the south side of the River Liffey. Just up from Chapel-Lizard Hill. Members and officials of the Dublin Corporation Housing Committee, photographed here on the 17th of November 1936 at the Stone House in Inchicore, on their visit to a possible housing site. At that time, Inchicore ran from the model schools right up to Grange Cross. The corporation already owned this piece of land. They had bought it to build a tuberculosis hospital to replace the Pigeon House Hospital. The committee were very undecided. Some of them thought that it was too far from the city centre. However, they finally come to an agreement and decided to build a new housing scheme here. The stone house referred to in the photograph was situated at the junction of Ballyfermot Road and O'Hogan Road. It was a lodge house surrounded by a high stone wall, and the last family who lived there were called Merrymans. There was Tommy, his wife Helen, and children Imelda and John. The corporation got their architect, Mr. Herbert George Sims, to draw up plans, and as Mr. Sims had just completed the housing scheme in Cabaret, he decided to use the same plans for this new housing estate. Unfortunately, due to the start of World War II and the bombings in the North Strand in Dublin, the plans had to be put on hold. In 1948 they decided to start building in what is now known as Ballyfermot. The corporation started this very special urban project, providing a very unique solution to the tenement issues in the city, one which was and is, regardless of any bad publicity we have ever received, a resounding success in every possible way. They built us simple houses, which we then turned into homes. They gave us a sprawling estate, and we made it into a community. They gave us streets and roads, and we turned them into our playground. The corporation decided to use Mr. Sims' original plans, but due to his untimely death, Mr. Sims did not live to see its completion. Later that year, the first families arrived in Ballyfermot to Sarchfield Road, and then on to Landon Road and the bottom half of the scheme. Most of the families came from the city centre, which was mostly tenement buildings. And in all these buildings you could have up to 6 families living in one building. Most buildings had only one toilet between all the families. There was only one water tap, and these were usually outside the back door. So you can imagine a family living on the 4th floor, going down with their buckets to fill with water, and then having to carry them back up 4 flights of stairs. Life certainly wasn't easy for them. And as for the toilet, well, I guess that's why Poes were very popular. But if you had a few children, they were a necessity. And of course, children needed to be bathed. And most families had a big tin bath which they would put in front of the fire. They'd fill it with hot water so as the children wouldn't get cold. You can imagine the family's delight at moving into their new house in Ballyfermot. They had a front and back garden, running water, a toilet and bathroom, all to themselves. But the times didn't get any easier, as the mothers didn't go out to work in those days. They stayed at home and looked after the children. So the father was the sole provider. As there was not a lot of work here at the time, a lot of the men had to go to England. So they went to places like Liverpool, where there was a lot of work going on the building site. They would send a few bob home every week. And the first time some of them would have seen their new house was when their wives would collect them from the boat in Dunleary and bring them out to Ballyfermot. At the start there was no bus service, shops, schools or church, but the people still seemed to manage. The bus only came as far as the hole in the wall, facing Cleary's public house in Inchicore, and they had to walk under the bridge and up Sarsfield Road. And as the roads were only being built, it was like a dirt track, and it wasn't the safest. A couple of house and fan shops opened to provide the people with groceries and the likes. The most famous being Collie O'Halloran, who lived on Kylemore Road. When Collie drove around, the children would run into their mothers and shout with excitement, "Here comes Collie," which is a very well-known saying among all Ballyfermot people. And as the children had to go to school, some of them went to the model schools in Inchicore. Some others went to Whitefriar Street, which was a great treat for the kids, because they would travel there from the top of Kylemore Road every morning by double-decker bus, and the return fare was 1 old penny. Father Scanlon, who was working out in Holt, was the first priest to be sent to Ballyfermot. He arrived in December 1949, and he was based in St Michael's, Inchicore. At that time, there were only 270 houses built. In 1950, he started to build a community. He bought an old painter's hut for £200 from the corporation. He transformed it into our first church, and it was known as the Tin Church. Mass was held every Sunday in the small tin hut building, which was on the corner of O'Hogan Road and Deasy's Road. It later became known as the Stew House. Work started on a new school on Ballyfermot Road, and the foundation stone was blessed on the 6th of June 1950. The school was put into the hands of the De La Salle brothers. It officially opened on the 7th of January 1952 with 380 pupils. This is a scene from the rocky road to Dublin.
Because of Adam's sin, we are born without sanctifying grace. Our intellect is darkened, our will is weak, and our passions incline to evil, and we are subject to suffering and death.
To you, my Dinah, 1,000 times adieu. We're going away from the holy ground and the girls that we love true. We will sail the salt sea over and then return for shore to see again as we love and the holy ground once more. I'm girl, you are the girl I do adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more. I'm girl, you are the star of my rising. I see it coming soon, and the sky it is so cloudy you can scarcely see the moon.
and the good old ship she was tossing about. The rigging was on shore, and still I live in hope to see the holy ground once more. Fine girl, you are the girl I do adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more. Fine girl, you are. Now the storm is over, and we are safe on shore.
In 1953, the first Dominican sisters arrived in Ballyfermot, and one of those was Sister Cynthia, now known as Sister Maura Keeley. They took over 5 classrooms in the De La Salle school, which the brothers lent them until their new school was built. The corporation built the first houses for newlyweds on O'Hogan Road in 1950. They had a draw which newly married couples could apply, and they would draw out 100 or 200 names, which they would then print in the paper. This was always an exciting time, going through all the papers to see if your name was there and if you were lucky enough to win one of those houses. After a few years, depending on how many children each family had, they would be offered a 2 or 3 bedroom house in the area. In May 1951, work started on the new church, on lands that were known as Rafters Farm. It cost £68,000 to build, and was capable of holding 1,980 people. And in July that year, Ballyfermot got 2 new priests to help Father Scanlon, Father Troy and Father Boland. On March the 15th, 1953, the Church of Our Lady of the Assumption opened with its first Mass. This photo is of the procession of the Blessed Sacrament being carried from the Old Tin Church up to the new church. You will notice from this picture that all the people are standing in the church, as the seating and the pulpit only arrived after the church was opened. Father Troy was the first parish priest. He later became Canon Troy, and he lived in the old Anamore house at the top of Chapel Lizard Hill, and it still stands there today. It's now a complex for affordable housing called Anamore Court, and it is run by the Ivy Trust. The Dominican Convent National School was opened in 1954, and they catered for juniors and girls. And in 1954, there were over 1,600 pupils attending school in Ballyfermot. In 1961, the Dominican convent saw 7 sets of twins start school on the same day. From left to right, there's the Phibbs twins from Ballyfermot Road, Noel and Leo Hanlon from Cladda Green, Patrick and Christy McMahon from Landon Road, Michael and Patrick Murphy from Clegane Avenue, We're not sure who the fifth set of twins are. The sixth set of twins is Matthew and Martin Hennessy from Cremona Road, and the Ronan twins from Kylemore Road. The games the children played. In school the boys played football and hurling, and at lunchtime, after they got their sandwich and bottle of milk, it was mostly a game of chasing around the schoolyard. Soccer was forbidden in the school, so they would play that on the roads when they came home. The school holidays meant they had all day to amuse themselves, and before the playgrounds were built, they would spend days in the California hills, where they all thought they were cowboys and Indians. There was also a lot of orchards in Chapel Lizard, and they backed onto the Californian hills, so they never went hungry. They would go down to the Phoenix Park and collect chestnuts to play conkers. They'd climb the lampposts and make swings. And there was also rounders, where you could have 20 or 30 children playing at the same time. Marbles was also a good game, played along the gully at the side of the road. There was hopscotch, or beds as we called them, where they would draw on the paths with chalk. They'd get an empty polished tin from one of their mothers and they'd fill it with clay, and they called this the piggy. In the 1960s the hula hoop was a new fad for the girls. They also played skipping, and at times the boys would join in. Another great day was going up to the Nallar with fishing nets. There was a small stream where Labourade Park is now today, beside a canal, where they would catch pinkeens in their nets, put them into a jar and bring them home. 1954 saw a new bridge built at the top of Kylemore Road. This was a great shortcut to Bluebell. As the population of Ballyfermot grew, from 31,892 in 1956 to 37,247, we started to get some new shops. Here's a few ads for some of the old shops over the years, and some of them are still open today. The first bank in Ballyfermot was opened in the mid-50s. The Bank of Ireland opened in a porta-cabin in the front garden at the side of house number 316 Ballyfermot Road. And the bank today, although situated across the road, still has that same address. We also got the Gala Cinema, and admission was 3 shillings and 3 pence. And of course we got a few pubs. We also got the Ritz Ballroom at the junction of Grange Cross. The admission to the Ritz was 3 shillings and 6 pence, and it was a great attraction for the teenagers. But sadly it closed, and in 1965 Power Supermarket opened. In 1964, Ballyfermot got its first public telephone boxes. They were outside Heritage Shop on the Ballyfermot Road. And as the scheme extended towards Upper Ballyfermot and Cherry Orchard, in 1959 a new school was built on Drumfin Road, St. Louise School. The school was run by the Sisters of Charity, and most of the sisters came from Knockmaroon Convent in Chapel Lizard. This is a typical 1960 house in Ballyfermot. The students of Caritas College reconstructed this room, and I'm sure for some of you this will bring back a lot of old memories.
This old house once knew children. This old house once knew a wife. This old house was home of comfort as we focused on life. This old house once rang with laughter. This old house heard many shots. Now she trembles in the darkness when the light in the walls is louder. Ain't gonna leave this house no longer. Ain't gonna leave this house no more. Ain't got time to fix the shingles. Ain't got time to fix the floor. Ain't got time on the hinges. No two men know when to paint. Ain't gonna need this house no longer. She's getting ready to read the same. This old house is getting shaky. This old house is getting old. This old house that's in the rain. And this old house that's in the cold. On to my knees, I'm getting chilled. But I feel no pain. As I see an angel beating through the broken window pane. Ain't gonna leave this house no longer. Ain't gonna leave this house no more. Ain't got time to fix the shingles. Ain't got time to fix the floor. Ain't got time on the hinges. No two men, no with no pain. Ain't gonna need this house no longer. She's getting ready to read the same. This old house is afraid of thunder. This old house is afraid of storm. This old house just groans and trembles when the night brings out its arms. This old house is getting feeble. This old house is in need of paint. Just like me, it's slightly down, but I'm getting ready to read the same. Ain't gonna leave this house no longer. Ain't gonna leave this house no more. Ain't got time to fix the shingles. Ain't got time to fix the floor. Ain't got time on the hinges.
In 1974, Phoenix Relays brought Pipe TV to Ballyfermot. The Residents Association got a licence to operate their own television station, and this was the first time anyone other than RTE got a licence to broadcast. The main people involved in setting up the station were Mary Farrell, John Sweeney, Billy French and Father John Wall. The show was transmitted every Saturday afternoon from the back of the Phoenix Relays office in Ballyfermot Road. Phoenix Relays were bought over by RTE Relays, and in 1984 they moved the station to the Ballyfermot College of Further Education, as the college had all the broadcast equipment and the students to operate the cameras. The 1 hour show consisted of broadcasting local news and sport. They also had guest entertainers and did interviews with Ballyfermot people. These photos are from a show from 1985. The anchorman was John Hammond, and guests on that show were Jerry Doyle, singer and guitarist, Golden Dawn, who were a folk group, and an interview with Tommy Phelan. The show was produced by Mary Farrell. In 1974, a new church was built to cater for the people of Upper Ballyfermot. St Matthew's Church was built on a site on Ballyfermot Road, which had 4 small cottages. One of them was owned by the Maguire family. Over the years, these houses had become derelict and had to be knocked down. In the past 70 years, Ballyfermot, like any other small town of over 30,000 people, has had its problems and fair share of bad publicity. But the community of Ballyfermot stood together and overcame all these problems. And the result is the Ballyfermot we have today. The old Ballyfermot Community Centre has been transformed into a 21st century civic centre, with public offices, meeting rooms, a theatre and a cafe. The old Sean Dunn swimming pool in the lawns was pulled down and it was replaced by a new sports and fitness centre with the best training facilities, including outdoor pitches, swimming pools and sauna. The lands where the lawn is today was once part of an estate where Ballyfermot Castle stood. It is believed that there was also a small schoolhouse attached to the castle. The ruins of the castle and an old graveyard were there up to the 1960s. However, due to antisocial behaviour and the decaying of the graves, the corporation decided to redevelop it into a park with football pitches and walks. Most Ballyfermot people remember the glass road between Ballyfermot Avenue and Ballyfermot Parade. This is where the College of Further Education is today. And next to the college is the library. The first library in Ballyfermot was on Drumfin Park. Our new library is one of the best and most modern libraries in Ireland.
Welcome to Dublin City Council's beautiful library here in Ballyfermot. As you can see, we have a very extensive range of books, both fiction and non-fiction, and there's a range of topics covered in the books we hold. It's a very welcoming space for all members of the community, and we like to think that young and old enjoy their experience of coming here. It's a lovely place to relax with the book, with a magazine, just to sit down and enjoy yourself, pass some time, maybe with a friend, have a cup of tea or coffee from our cafe area, and enjoy yourself.
To help you with your information research or your study, and that's particularly maybe for the very young people, even secondary school students, we have 12 computers which you may come in and use. We have printing facilities. Well, as you can see here from our display, we also have a lot of material to back up your historical research. This exhibition of books is focused on 1916 to 1922, and that's just a little example of the promotion of information that the library does. We have a range of music material, including books, and a wide range of CDs. We have music DVDs. We have a very broad collection actually of general DVDs for public viewing, and we have a wide range of audio books. This is particularly popular with the elderly who don't want to sit down and read a book but want to enjoy listening to a story. In Ballyfermot Library, we're very lucky to have a facsimile copy of the Book of Kells, which is perhaps Ireland's most famous and most treasured book. Well, the library staff are very helpful, and they'd be delighted to answer any queries that you might have, any information requests, or if you want to inquire about books or how to go about ordering them, if you want to join the library or find out about activities that are on in the library which you can bring your children to or come along to and enjoy yourself. So always keep in touch with the library staff, and we'll do what we can do to help you. Here in the library we have a wonderful model of the City Hall, made in Lego, designed by UK Lego designer Elaine Jones to commemorate the Dublin Millennium. This was donated to Dublin City Council by UK Lego, and we're very blessed to have it here in the library for people of Ballyfermot and the children to come in and enjoy. As you can see, we have a beautiful children's library here, and it caters for children of all ages. This is the lower part, which caters for the under sevens. We put a great emphasis on story time for the children, and we'd love the parents, the carers, the people who bring them in to sit down here, pick a lovely story and enjoy reading with the children. We've made it cosy so that they can do that. with particular emphasis on comfort. As you can see, we have a wide range of beautiful books, and as every parent knows, children love a little story. It gives them time with you, and it helps to develop their imaginations, and they really enjoy the experience. So we'd like to welcome people to come down here to the Children's Library and make the most of this beautiful place. As you all know, there's a great history of traditional Irish music playing here in Ballyfermot, and people have great talent. Here in the library we remember singer-songwriter Liam Weldon and the Fury Brothers. Now in the coming year, 2018, we'll be celebrating 70 years of Ballyfermot, and for the anniversary celebrations here in the library we're going to put a focus on the great creativity that is here in Ballyfermot at the moment through art, but we're also going to remember the contribution of the Keenan family, Johnny Keenan, his son Paddy and others, to the development of traditional Irish music. So we hope to honour the Keenan family in the coming year as part of our anniversary celebrations.
St John's College, Leafenew Road. The Delastal brothers moved into St John's in 1955, and they decided to open a new secondary school. This house has a long history. It's the oldest house still standing in Ballyfermot today. It was built in 1745, and it was known as Johnston House. It was surrounded by tall trees and bushes, and could not be seen from the main road. The entrance was up at the silver granite, and the land was used to graze dairy cattle. There were lots of sheds and outhouses. During the 1940s, the house became vacant and run down. Wild bushes and shrubs dotted the landscape, and the locals knew it as a very spooky place. Many stories were told about ghosts that roamed the grounds. One story is that a headless horseman sometimes would appear at the main gate. He'd ride down the old avenue to the wall of St John's, and then disappear. Many scenes in the film Return to Glenanskall, which starred Orson Welles, was shot in the hallway of Johnston House. Noticeably, the ghost scenes in the film. Here is a short clip from the film.
By the insolent foe and sold to slavery, of my redemption thence, and portents in my travels history, wherein of entries vast and deserts idle, rough quarries, rocks and hills, whose heads touch heaven, it was my hint. I'm sorry, I can't get the thing at all. Let's break for lunch. Michael!
It was the same place, no doubt of that. And by daylight, it looked more desolate than ever. He tried to tell himself again that he'd come back to the wrong address.
She's been dead a long time now. You will come back.
When St John's College opened, they had 75 boys, and they were located in Johnston House, while the new college was being built. The new college opened in 1957. The credit union was a great help to people of Ballyfermot. It helped a lot of families to buy their own homes. It also helped to get rid of the illegal money lenders. It was started around 1963 in the pavilion at the back of St. Belinda's Hall in the De La Salle School. Today it stands in a prominent position in the main shopping area on Ballyfermot Road. The Californian Hills was probably every kid's dream. Every Ballyfermot person over 50 will remember this place with fond memories. However, you would not recognise it today, as Kylemore Road runs right through it down to Chapel Lizard. In October 2004, a group of Ballyfermot people travelled to Canada to represent their community at the LiveCon Awards. This is run by the United Nations, and they spent their time explaining Ballyfermot culture to a panel of world-renowned judges. 50 communities from all over the world took part, and Ballyfermot won a silver medal, which meant that Ballyfermot was judged the second best town in the world to live. The children of Ballyfermot who were educated by the Convent Sisters and the De La Salle brothers are now all grown-up adults. And with the talent and skills that they were taught, they have travelled and are living all over the world. The most famous of these are the Furies from Cladder Road. They have recorded hundreds of albums and have played to millions of people all over the world.
Hello, we'd like to wish Ballyfermot a happy 70th anniversary. 70 years we're here, 70 years, can't believe it. So have a good time in Ballia for the anniversary. We'll see you soon, God bless with the Furies.
And no matter where we went around the world, we always give our address, and we still do, as the boys from Ballyfermot, Dublin, Ireland. And we always will, because we have great memories of playing around there and great times going up over the years. We're all our great pals and friends. Have a great one!
Dermot Martin, Archbishop of Dublin, is also a Ballyfermot man. He's from Sarsfield Road and is a past pupil of the De La Salle. A message from the Archbishop of Dublin to all Ballyfermot people.
Blessing on the people of Ballyfermot who watch this, people of our generation, but especially younger ones. It's not easy for young people today. Far many more challenges than we had. But we got on. We got on with life. Nothing was handed to us on the plate. And remember also, Ballyfermot is also a place with lots of old people. When I look at Sarsfield Road now, it's the street of that. So remember them, and that they're the ones who built up Ballyfermot. They're the ones who put a huge effort into making what it is today. May the blessing of Almighty God, Father, Son and Holy Spirit be upon us all.
Thanks very much.
Amen.
Thank you.
Joe Duffy, broadcaster and author. Joe grew up on Cladder Green, and his radio show Live Line on the National Radio Broadcaster is listened to by people all over the world on the internet. It is transmitted 5 days a week, and its catchphrase, "Talk to Joe," is known by everyone. Joe also wrote the best-selling book of 2016, Children of the Rising. We caught up with Joe on Christmas Eve morning, before his live broadcast from Grafton Street. And as you can hear, it was very breezy.
Hello, Joe Duffy here, wishing everyone in Ballyfermot, all my family who still live there, all my friends and neighbours and schoolmates over the years. Looking forward to the 70th anniversary celebration. Who would have thought it was 70 years? But it's a fantastic area, fantastic scheme as my mother used to call it. It gave hope and jobs and education to an awful lot of families and continues to do so. So many great people live in Ballyfermot, so many great people have come out of Ballyfermot. So let's rock it in 2018, it's hard to believe, for the 70th anniversary of the establishment of Ballyfermot. Congratulations, and let's get into it.
A lot of entertainers, actors, authors, poets, sports personalities have contributed to the heritage of Ballyfermot. And here are just a few, as there are so many. It probably all started in school with the De La Salle Accordion Band. In 1965 they toured America and they played in the White House for the American President. Dominic Green from Ballyfermot Drive. Dominic played with the Memories. Benny Burkett from Ballyfermot Parade. Benny had his own orchestra. Ronnie Kennedy from Landon Road. Ronnie toured the world with the Daniel O'Donnell Band. Jimmy Conway from Cladder Road. Jimmy played in Las Vegas with Brendan Boyer and the Big 8 Show Band. Noel McCann from Lally Road. Noel played with Eileen Reid and the Cadets Show Band. The Young Shadows, Ballyfermot's very own show band. Past members of the Young Shadows include Paddy Holgate on drums, Pat Long on vocals, Eamon Pollard on lead guitar, Jimmy Story on bass, Jimmy O'Neill on trumpet, and Tommy Walsh on sax and clarinet. Ballyfermot lads the Accordabeats were playing in Coventry, England in 1965. Tommy Walsh from Cremona Road. Tommy is a musician and composer and plays with his band Turlock. Tommy has made many recordings and his CDs are very popular all around Europe. Tommy is the composer of the famous traditional Irish tune Inisheer, which has been played and recorded by musicians and ensembles all over the world. Declan O'Rourke from O'Moore Road. Declan is a singer, musician and composer, and in 2004 he had a very big hit with a song he wrote himself, Galileo. And Galileo has been recorded by many artists such as Eddie Ryder, Josh Groban, Jackie Dankworth and our very own Mary Byrne. The Beer Mats. The Beer Mats are celebrating their 25th anniversary of bringing their music to people all over Europe. The band includes Colm Gibbons from Rossmore, Brian Smith from Drumfin, Ray Delaney from Deasy's, and Tono Brennan from Ballyfermot Crescent.
Beer Mats here, we'd like to wish Ballyfermot Heritage Committee and the Bally people at home and away from Ballyfermot a happy 70th anniversary, and we hope to see you next year sometime at the Beer Mats 25th anniversary at one of our gigs. Enjoy 2018 from all the Beer Mats. Up the Beer Mats!
Up the Mats! Mary Byrne. Mary is a singer-songwriter from Leafenew Road, and Mary rose to fame after finishing 4th on the X Factor in 2010. By this time, Mary had already won Nolla Cahain on TG Carter in 2008 and had spent many years performing with her brother Tommy in the Tommy Lee Experience.
Hi everybody in Ballyfermot, my name is Mary Bourne. I was born and reared in Ballyfermot, love the place so much, and I just want to wish everybody a very happy 70th anniversary for Ballyfermot. To all my neighbours and all my friends, and to everyone else that I know, and those who have gone before us I know are looking down at us. Ballyfermot all the way, love you lots.
Pat Nolan from DC's Road. Pat is an actor, producer and director who started his acting career at the Gaiety School of Acting. Pat is known by thousands of Irish people as Barry O'Hanlon from Fair City, who he played for more than 22 years.
Hello, Pat Nolan here, formerly of DC's Road. I just want to wish all the people of Ballyfermot at home and abroad a very happy 70th anniversary.
Liam Weldon. Liam was a singer-songwriter born in Dublin. Liam, like many people of the inner city at the time, moved into Ballyfermot. He had a lifelong interest in the songs of the Irish travellers, and his own songs reflected a strong awareness of poverty and disadvantage. At the age of 16, Liam went to England, where he performed for many years. When he returned, he used to organise sessions in the Central Bar in Ainger Street, Slattery's on Capel Street, and sessions in Taylor Hall and the Brazen Head. Liam's wife Nellie was also a singer. In the 1970s he was known as one of Dublin's most prolific songwriters. Tom Hopkins from Sarchfield Road. Tom is a radio, television, stage actor and is well known for playing the part of the lovable rogue Christy in Fair City. In 2015, after playing the part for 16 years, they decided that his character was to be cut out of the show. So in the final scene, Christy died of a heart attack.
Tom Hopkins here, in Ballyfermot Library. I was raised in Ballyfermot, and I want to send out good wishes and greetings to all of my friends, neighbours and relations who are from Ballyfermot, who are at home and abroad, because this year we are moving into our 70th year. Can you believe it? 70 years. Good wishes to you all.
Paddy Keenan. Paddy was born in County Meath, and the family came to live in Upper Ballyfermot. They were a very musical family, and his father and grandfather played the pipes. Paddy would spend hours every week playing and learning the pipes in the Fury's house on Cladder Green. Paddy became known as one of the country's best uilleann pipers. He has played all over the world. And he was a founding member of the Botty Band. Paddy emigrated to the USA in 1992, and here's a little clip of a programme that was made about Paddy.
Did you come here to learn tunes, or did you come here to meet up with your friends, or just to play your music?
At the time I had a wealth of tunes from my dad and from other musicians and sessioning, and I loved the sessions actually for practice, for new tunes and stuff. And then there was a time after the band and appearing on TV and LP as it was at the time, people when I'd walk into a session. In fact, the session would stop and would place me on some kind of pedestal, and that was a little, nerve-wracking for me.
Anita Nataro from Sarsfield Road. Anita was a producer and director and author. She has published 6 books, including Back After the Break and Behind the Scenes. She spent 18 years working in RTE, producing and directing a lot of different shows. She directed The Late Late Show for many years, and she also directed the National Election Special and Fair City. I think her greatest project was directing the Eurovision Song Contest in 1993 from Mill Street in Cork. It was the biggest outside broadcast undertaken by RTE, and once again Ireland's entry won. Niamh Kavanagh with the song In Your Eyes, and this was Ireland's 5th time to win. The Eurovision had a live audience of 1,000 people in the arena, and it was watched by over 300 million on television around the world. Here's a short clip of Anita at work in Mill Street.
And the lady in charge, the lady directing is Anita. Would you like to come in and have a quick look? By the way, this is my 4th Eurovision. There's a feeling that maybe there's another one in us next year, and we fancy Drumshambo. The chairman's a little man. Come on.
Because you know what I mean, but at the moment, but it looks terrific, that little picture. And it's a
great
great reminder. I'll try.
Anita Nataro directs cameras, sound and lights, the entire television production, now just hours away.
A little bit apprehensive, a little bit, it's going to be a long night. I suppose my only hope is that there have been so many people, so many RTE people who have just given everything to this week, that I hope that for me and for them and for RTE that it is an absolutely fantastic show, and it will be.
The Ballyfermot woman set another record by being the first woman to direct the Eurovision Song Contest. Sadly, after a long illness, Anita died in 2014, and she is buried in Esker Cemetery. Ken Larkin from Ballyfermot Drive. Ken is an author and historian. His books Growing Up in Ballier in the 50s, 60s and 70s, Ballyfermot Precious Memories, and Ballyfermot Building a Community are very sought after books. Ken's lovely poem Growing Up in Ballier.
I remember waiting that day for the lorry to pull up. We had our furniture ready just to load up. We were moving to a housing estate. The year was 55. My mother, sister and myself, our whole lives were to come alive. We loaded our furniture, the bit that we had, and we pulled away from Buckingham Street. Indeed, I was not sad. A new adventure was starting. We did not know it yet, as the lorry roared towards Ballier and the night was very wet. The lorry turned off Ballyfermot Road and onto the drive. I was guessing as to what house that we would reside. Then we stopped outside the house with 2 rooms up and down. Number 33 was on the door, and I see miles from Dublin town. We started in the local school, and the games we began to play With conkers, marbles, skipping and piggy, these games are replaced with computers today. Our communion and confirmation came along and our parents did us proud, and we were dressed in our Sunday best as we went out on the town. So we moved on to Mount LaSalle. This was the school to be in. The brothers and the teachers taught us all how to win. They taught us Gaelic and hurling, and we played it after school. They did not let us play soccer because they did not know the rules. Then we did our primary cert, as we had to leave this school, and so we moved on to a college or tech to start another renewal. We moved into St. John's and we had to buckle down, as our teachers told us this was the best college in town. We had to go in on a Saturday morning to focus for our inter. We worked hard that September, but we lost heart by winter. I remember the stew house where the nuns gave out the meals. Sometimes we would go there to buy the penny deals. I remember the U Club and Mount Olivet too, where I have happy memories of all the past through. I remember the ballad sessions we had on a Saturday night, when all young people carrying guitars would assemble through the night. Ballads would be sung, poems would be recited, and all the members remained very united. Mount Olivet Football Club is where we played the soccer. We met and trained and played the game, and we were there for each other. Hardy's was the venue where tactics were discussed, plans and dreams were made there, but often we fouled up. Saturday was gala day, where we spent our turf money. We would head to Dirty Aggies to buy our cleaves and goodies. And when we would get to the gala door, Big Harry would greet us with a roar, saying, "If you mess, I'll be here, and you'll be in no more." As I drive through Ballyfermot and the memories come flooding back, I think of all the bygone days, the lads and all the crack. I try to tell my kids of days that have gone past, so they can pass it on and make the memories last.
Billy French. Billy is a bricklayer by trade, and he first learned about Ballyfermot when he was working for Frampton Builders, when he was sent out to work on the houses in Ballyfermot in 1949. He married Maeve and they moved into a house on Kylemore Road, where they reared their family, and have been living there nearly 70 years. Billy is also an author, and he has wrote several books, including The Journeyman, A Builder's Life, and Jamie. He is also a playwright and director, and he has wrote many poems. Joe Coleman from Spittle Road. Joe is an author and poet. Joe's book, The Message, is very popular and in great demand from Veritas. He is also the author of the poem Memories of Ballyfermot. And here are a few lines from that beautiful poem. You see, I'm 40 years in Ballyer, and I love this wonderful scheme. I'm only halfway down the road, and I'll hold on to my dream. God bless Ballyfermot and all her children within, and try not to change it anymore, 'cause that would be a sin. Tell your kids the stories of bygone days of past, and tell them all about our days and make our memories last. I remember Ballyfermot, and I just know I always will. Joe O'Brien is from Leafenew Road. Joe is the author of many children's books. He has published 9 books in the Alfie Green series for children aged 5 to 9. He has also wrote 3 novels, including the GAA book Little Croaker and Beyond the Cherry Tree for children aged 9 plus. Joe's books have been published all over the world, even as far as Korea. Declan Callis from Landon Road. Declan is an accomplished author, scriptwriter, musician and entertainer. He is best known for his character Concepta on Joe Duffy's Funny Friday. We leave you with a poem written specially by Declan for our 70th anniversary, about his memories of growing up in Ballyfermot.
Where once were fields and meadows, so many years ago, the seeds of our community were sown and set to grow. Throughout those many decades, we have grown and changed, they say, but the spirit of our people remains the same today. We are proud of our achievements, the effort that we make, our passion and commitment for all our residents' sake. Our senior folk look back with pride at the progress that we made, those early days of building blocks and new cement roads laid. The ballot club, the OLV, the stew house they recall, and ropes tied round the lampposts and children playing ball. The Californian hills were pastures to explore, and neighbours chatted happily, standing at their own front door. Rows of sheets on washing lines whipped up in a summer breeze, and doorsteps scrubbed, and windows cleaned, and children scraping knees. The Church of the Assumption packed for Sunday Mass, children walking to the chapel from their first communion class. Fathers headed off to work, they travelled near and far, and perhaps they'd have a pint or two in their local county bar. Children running home from school for tea, then out to play, and a hooter from the railway works meant the end of a working day. The bus trip into town, hurry, don't be late, jump on the 79 or hold on for the 78. Or a trip to the beach at Sandymount, the 18 from Carmore Road, with bags of crisps and lemonade making up the load. The milkman from the dairy, the turf from Lally Road, a bag of clothes for a little toy was something to behold. And the graveyard on Lafornu, holding secrets still unknown. Every headstone tells a story, standing still and so forlorn. So let us look to the future united and recall the past with pride, the days of song and laughter, the days perhaps we cried. Let us work and plan together. In our hands we hold our fate, but you won't find a better person in Ballyfermot, this wonderful estate.
a new church was built to cater for the people of Upper Ballyfermot. St Matthew's Church was built on a site on Ballyfermot Road, which had 4 small cottages. One of them was owned by the Maguire family. Over the years, these houses had become derelict and had to be knocked down. In the past 70 years, Ballyfermot, like any other small town of over 30,000 people, has had its problems and fair share of bad publicity. But the community of Ballyfermot stood together and overcame all these problems, and the result is the Ballyfermot we have today.